Set and ready. Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, Menina, and we are back with another episode of the Sip and Chat. I hope you guys had an amazing week. I know I did, and I have an amazing guest with me tonight. I have Miss Talisha Hunter, who has graced us with her presence tonight on the Sip and Chat. Hey, Talisha, how are you?
Hi, Manina. I'm doing wonderful. Hey, everybody.
That is amazing to hear. So, everyone that has been following the Legacy Book Bar Instagram and Facebook pages have seen the Be Bold, Be Heard campaign. So, for any aspiring authors or established authors who have a story to tell, I sent out an all call. All Black authors in any genre that you have written or is looking to write, please email us and get on our schedule so we can have you on an episode of the Sip and Chat. Well, Miss Talisha answered the call by way of another fan of Legacy Book Bar. So she is here with us. She emailed, we got her a spot, we got all of her information, and she is here with us tonight. That's how fast it works, people. All you gotta do is send an email, and you're here. So, Talisha, what has your week been like?
Oh my gosh. We're going to start with that. Well,
let's get that part out the way first. I know.
It's rough. It is rough. Yeah. I'm a nurse, so I'm out in the community. Of course, we are in the era of COVID, and the pandemic is still raging in some parts and stuff, for some people in communities. So it's tough, ever since the pandemic hit, we got hit with more work, more stress, more demands, more needs. It's been a stressful week, and I mean, it's doable. But when it comes to the end of the week, you know that physical exhaustion looks vastly different from that mental and emotional stress of having to care for people with chronic conditions.
Understood.
This too shall pass.
Yes, we are. If anyone has been paying attention to the news or has looked at your calendar, we are 1 year in and we are still here. Blessed. I know it's probably looked crazy for a few people. Not to, minimize the unfortunate 500,000 plus deaths due to COVID, but we are still here. We are still forging forward, keeping our heads up as much as possible. I thank you so much for your hard work. All of our nurses that have been out here, our front lines, our postal office, our grocery store workers. Without you guys, this pandemic would have looked a lot worse. So from me to you and to all of them, thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you to all the frontline heroes out there and the sheroes.
Absolutely. And speaking of sheroes, it is Women History Month. So I hope people have been watching some of the videos that have been shared all through social media. Or yourself have privately or amongst your family, if you have kids, nieces, nephews, the women that have made extremely powerful strides in their chosen fields. You have Serena Williams, you have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you have Michelle Obama, you have First Lady Dr. Jill Biden. You have so many.
Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris,
yes,
Sanders,
Keisha Lance Bottoms. List goes on. It runneth over front and backside of your paper.
Yes.
So, just high five to those ladies.
Absolutely.
Definitely paved the way for us. Yes. So we got you here, Miss Talisha, to tell us about your story. We want you to be bold and be heard. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into your books.
Okay, so who I am today. I consider myself first and foremost a righteous woman, a
Mm.
virtuous woman. Um, I'm also a very devoted mother. My sons are adults. They're
Mhm.
25 and 23, but I find
Girl, you
myself
look
still
12.
virtuous.
I love it.
Wait a
I
minute.
love it. She looked
Thank
12.
you.
She said 25. What?
Yep,
What?
25 and 23. They out the house. I'm getting ready to be a grandmother actually, July 5th, my first grandchild, and it's a boy, so I'm extra excited. Yes.
Come on with the
Because
July babies. Yes.
I'm
Get
a
it,
look, I'm
Grandma.
a July baby myself, so I already know what I'm bringing to the table. So I'm like,
Okay,
yeah, my
so
grandson gonna be on it.
let's let's
Um,
let's let's see if we're twins here. What's your birthday?
July 18th.
Okay, not quite, but we close though. July 1st. I'm with you though. We
Okay,
close.
no, but the cancers, team cancer. Can I get some more snaps?
Yes.
I love
Yes.
it. Yes. That's where the
Yes.
earth tones is coming from. I love it.
Yes. Oh, we have a comment. Our very first comment said 25 and 23 where you look amazing, queen. Yes, she
Thank
does.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So you grandma coming, kids here. What else?
Oh, what else about me? I am a gardener. So I get down and dirty for mines. I'm outside, planting seeds and nurturing and cultivating and watering in the heat. And I do that pretty
Wow.
much from February all the way through November.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none. I pretty much I'm serious. I do it all, crochet, sew. Um, yeah, I do a little bit of everything, but who I
Wow.
am to the core of me is because
Mhm.
when I grew up without a family. So like family is everything to me. I mean, that is like the core of my existence. And they made me who I am today.
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned you were being a gardener. I want to be nosy. So what is your favorite plant to plant, I guess?
So let me see. The tomato plant, definitely. I do brandywine tomatoes. And if the viewers who are listening not familiar, they're not like the ones that you buy in your grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the size of little small pumpkins. That's how big they get. They're really good.
Oh,
And
okay.
I grow just about anything. So
Interesting. Now that is something that we have not heard on the Sip and Chat. I love when our guests come on and they give us a little nugget into themselves, and it's something that you wouldn't ordinarily pick. That is not something I would have picked out of a hat if they said choose these three things that Talisha does. That's not one I would have picked, but I love it. It's so different. But you seem so excited and passionate about it. So it seems to be you. I love it.
I'm
So
very passionate about the things that I do. You have to be. I mean, if there's no
exactly,
passion, there's not going to be no purpose. And if there's no
exactly,
purpose, why are you doing it?
absolutely, absolutely. So tell us, you nurse, kids, gardener. What made you decide to write your first book?
So, my past, I was
Okay.
running from my past for decades. The things that
Okay.
I've been through, how they changed me, how they, made me turn into addiction as far as with
Mhm.
alcoholism. And unfortunately, the streets, I lived a very long time in the streets. And
Mhm.
I just got tired of running. When I started to, gain a little bit, just a teeny bit more wisdom, I realized that there were other, Talishas, there's other um, people that's still out there that
Mhm.
want to change. They have a desire to change, but they just don't know how. And then a lot of
Mm.
times in our communities, we don't readily come out with our stories, although we almost everybody has a story to
Mhm.
tell, but we hold it to ourselves. And then when we finally get somewhere, it's like we're not really giving back the right way. So I believe that some of those reachings come through teachings, and those teachings come from revealing your story, the hidden legacies, if you will.
Gotcha. Do you have a copy of your first book with you?
I sure do.
Let's show everybody. Childhood Fire. Yes. So anyone is interested in this book, and yes, later on in this broadcast, Talisha is going to tell us a little bit more about her book. But for right now, you can find this book on Amazon. So tell us, I imagine that story is going to be somewhat of a tearjerker. Yes. We are here for it, but I've had some other guests on that have talked, unfortunately, a similar story to yourself. And I commend anyone that can delve deep and be vulnerable enough to tell that story, because unfortunately, like you said, it's a lot of Talishas out here that have either gone through or is going through, and to hear someone else say, I've been there, I've done that, I have gotten out, and you can too. I commend you guys for getting out of that situation. I can't even imagine how hard that must have been for any of you. You can tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I'll start with my teenage years. Okay. Although it goes back, the book is really doesn't speak to the whole story because it says childhood on fire, but it's more so about my younger years and my young adulthood. So I lost a lot of family members because I put it out there. And yes, I did tell the story. If I'm going to tell something, I'm going to tell it. But anyway, I started out with, my teenage years, I was homeless. And I was homeless not because, I wasn't paying rent. I'm a minor child, but I was staying with my sister. And she had a form of, stunning growth and development, also had a lot of traumas from, her childhood as well. And she put me out, not once, but she did it twice. And the last time that she did it, I literally had nowhere to stay. So I ended up, that week I had met a very dear friend of mine who I lost to addiction 2 years ago. And I called her and I was like, Menina, I had just met her that week. And I was like, listen, I know I just met you. Normally, under normal circumstances, I would not do this, but I don't have anywhere to go. And girl, it's cold out here. I need somewhere to stay for the night. And she was like, oh my God, that's horrible. I told her the story. And she was like, I'm here with somebody else. She was from New York. And she was like, she was staying with someone else, but, come on, she couldn't see me out on the streets. So, Menina, I stayed in their closet because they were staying with somebody. And if the mother would have found out, my girlfriend would have been put out with me and it would have been 2 homeless people outside. Yeah, so I lived in a closet for about a week. Yes, hardly ate. Just couldn't do anything. Never felt like that. But in my mind, I'm a young teenager, like 17 years old. I'm like, I can live here in this closet for the rest of my life because I have shelter. As young people, we don't see the consequences of our actions or our inactions. But what happened was the heat came. They was like, look, you got to go. My mother finds out, we're going to be in deep trouble. And I was like, you know what? I understand that. But what do I do? So one of the girls was like, there's a nightclub on Baltimore Street and you could go down there and make some money just by dancing. So again, young girl, naive to the streets. I'm like, dancing? I love dancing. Show me where the direction is. But I wasn't aware of all the formalities. So I tell this story. I went down there totally unprepared, went down there with a bathing suit, and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking around, and I was in an all-white club. So I'm just sitting around looking like, how am I going to make money? It was like 4 girls down there, like 2 customers. And I made enough money to catch the cab home. Well, back to my girlfriends. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. But to make a long story short, I found out that there was other places that were geared towards Black people. So I started to frequent those places, and one thing led to another. So I went from being homeless to surviving by being in type of a gentleman's club atmosphere. Yeah, you see how the chips may fall?
Yeah. I think I was talking to my daughter, and we were saying, you never judge a person and their journeys, because you never know how they might have gotten there. You know, don't look at like, oh my gosh, she's dancing in a strip club. That's the job, that's the paycheck. But how she got there, nobody wakes up one day and says, this is a good career field, let's go do this. That's not how that works. I said, you'd be surprised how many nurses, doctors, lawyers at one point did this job, and they came out of school and they have no debt. I said, so, or minimum debt, depending on where they are. I said, so don't look your nose down, because you don't know. And then a lot of them, I feel like at least 75% of them in that path is just there for survival.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Not for glamour. And I think even though it's a classic movie, it's probably an all-time favorite of a lot of people. Players Club glamorized more of, and it's not. It's not. You're not falling in love with DJs.
No, it wasn't like that. Nah. Yeah. It became more fun than anything after a while, because what I felt like, as I reflected, it was like I was free. I was free to finally be myself, or who I thought I was being. And there's nothing greater in this world than having freedom. Nothing. I mean, you can't buy that. And when you've been a prisoner or someone else's prisoner for so long, and you finally get a chance to unleash whatever that is that you're holding on to, that vice, that addiction, then that becomes that substitution for those problems.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. So I know you mentioned you probably had to let your family know that you were going to write this story, and some stories were going to be told. Yes. What was their response to you writing this story?
Listen,
I can imagine.
They were pissed. My sister she understood. She did come to terms with things. She was upset in the beginning. How could you put this out there? You never gave me a heads up. And I was like, I told you that I've been telling you this for years, that I was going to tell not just my story, but all of our stories rather. And it shouldn't have come as a surprise. I have my aunt, my mother's sister, who is, she's filled with venom. And she's trying her best to infect me with that venom, if you will. She has been a nightmare since I published this book.
Oh, no.
And she's in her 80s. And you would think that a person in their 80s, first of all, they're not that savvy with Facebook and Instagram. I'm like, who's helping her?
Mm.
And she's in my inbox regularly. She's saying things, sending me friend requests, and after I delete and block her, she makes a whole new another account. And yeah.
She definitely didn't want the story to be told, I see.
Absolutely.
So everyone that we've talked to that has written these self-memoirs, everyone has said that it was so therapeutic for them, even though it was still very hard, because having to write it means you now have to relive those emotions that you were feeling at that time, because now you have to put it out and you have to deal with all of that. Did the same things happen to you?
Absolutely. So when I started to write it, of course, there were some memories that I just did not even think about since it first happened. And I found myself writing about people that, aren't here anymore, family members. And I would just like slam the computer shut and was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do it. But I kept pushing on. It was like you have to face your fears. And I got through those emotions sort of kind of the first time around. I think that was like what we would call primary trauma, because that's what happened. And then when you relive it, you have your, those secondary traumas. And if I was still in the streets and still was drinking, I might have went back and, started to abuse alcohol again, or delve into other vices. So it was a slippery slope. Now the pendulum swings both ways. So it was highly therapeutic. Once I hit the publish button and the story was out there, a weight, not all of it, but some of the weight was lifted off of my shoulders. As time went by and I started to gather supporters, people who were, inboxing me and emailing me saying, Talisha, I know your story. Thank you for your honesty, your transparency. I also been through X, Y, and Z. So then my story became to be like somebody else's story. And I'm like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. So I started to do motivational speaking and, talking to the children that was out there. Well, that is out there going through things and, trying to develop an outreach around my project, my life.
Okay. So when did you really start to sit down and decide, okay, I'm really going to write this to get it published? When did you start that?
It started in 2019. So I was for sure going to do it in 2019. And it started like, I would say winter months. Then when I got into 2020, it was like surreal for me. I don't know about you, Manina, but 2020 was like, I felt like I was entering that year to get something out of 2020. I didn't think it was COVID, but I wanted something out of it. And I just found myself having purpose above, my status and the things that I acquired. It was more about me spiritually, me physically, me emotionally. And it was about healing that child, that inner child. I had to go back and save her because she was still there as an adult. She was still there.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think we were talking earlier, and I myself had that same kind of epiphany when I decided to create Legacy BookBar. And, I've toyed around with different ideas. What business am I going to do? And then when I finally decided, okay, no, it's going to be a bookstore. This is what we're going to do, and did all the research to it. I was so excited.
Yes.
Then, I went to my first ever event as a business owner, the end part of 2019. And then 2020 came, and I'm like, yes, this is my year. I'm excited. Published on the bookstore. And they was like, but wait, we not finished COVID. I'm like, what? This is I don't have this on my calendar. What are you doing here?
At all. At all.
I was like, but the one thing I must say about COVID, amongst all the craziness and the shelter in place, and then I was at work for 8 weeks, it made me grind harder because I can't go outside now. I'm in the house and you just started a business. So you can't, woe is me, because you can't go outside. What do you do? And it's like, okay, well, we're going to figure out some new marketing ideas.
Absolutely.
Because outside is closed. So what are we going to do? That's probably one of the few things that COVID was able to do. I'm not sure how. Well, no, I know me. I still would have been a strong business contender. I still would have been out there, but that extra motivation to grind harder, because it's like outside is eventually going to be open and I got to be ready when it does, to kick that door down. Would I still have that same, let's get it, put your pumps on without COVID? Probably, but who knows?
But you know what? I want to add on something. COVID for me, I'm telling you honestly, it was like, for me spiritually, it touched me to my core, because I remember contacting my mother. My mother is still in New York. And for those who read my story, she is still in a nursing home. And she's always say, you need to pray more. And I'm like, you got cameras in my room. How you know I'm not praying? And I felt myself saying, you know what? She's right. Why do I find myself at the mercy of God when something is going wrong? I don't want to be that person. So I found myself being more appreciative of life, of my loved ones, and, just going outside and being able to breathe. Breathe, take it in. So for me, it just made me look at things a little differently.
I love it. Yeah. Same here. My kids will be 21, 19,
I get like that.
7. I'm sitting there like, wait, what are their ages again?
See, black don't crack. I'm telling you, we here, Menina.
I shouldn't. 21, 19, and 7.
Wait a minute, you said 7? So wait a minute, so 7 to 21. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I know.
Menina.
Don't let my husband hear, but I so blame him. But no.
Shame on you, hubby.
Yes, we just had to have a boy.
Yes. He had to have that. Okay, in that case, he's forgiven.
My husband is looking at me like, really, chick? I'm like, I'm just saying, we was done. Our middle one is graduating high school in like 2 months.
Well, now you gotta help her. You got a strong man to take after his dad.
Absolutely. But that's my little buddy. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But that new math though, that 1921.
Yeah.
Woo! But yes, I agree. Black does not crack. So yes, I'm all for it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So when you decided to write Childhood on Fire, did you opt to self-publish or did you go the traditionally published route?
No, I self-published. I did all the legwork.
What was and I'm curious if you're going to have the same response as some of our other guests. I feel like I probably am, but in case there are some new listeners today, why did you self-publish versus traditionally published?
Well, number one, I didn't want anyone to own any rights over my story. That is my story. Nobody gets permission to do nothing with it whatsoever.
That seems to be the going response for everyone that self-publishes. Okay, continue.
Yes, because sometimes, from what I've been reading in the community, is that some of those publishers can hijack someone's story. And then when it gets really good and they start, you're talking about millions start to come in with some of these stories and these signings, they have more rights over that money opposed to that person. Now, the downside of it that I was not aware of, is because I sent my books to, of course, to different places. New York Times being on the list, and they was like, "Who's your publisher? Who's your publicist?" And I was like, "Huh? What?" And they was like, "Oh, we don't even deal with individuals. We deal with only their publicists." So that's the downside of it. But I mean, the purpose of me writing my story was to tell it.
Okay. I know.
Making the money was extra.
I love it. So many of my authors, literally, I could just close my eyes and it's the same person telling that exact reason why they self-publish. Now, everyone always asks, does Legacy publish? No, that is not a lane that I, at this point in my life, want to do. I always said if a good friend of mine decided to move back to Baltimore and decided to bring her publishing company here, then yes, we would figure out a way to merge the two. But other than that, no. But I always tell people research either side, because there are quite a few authors that they want their rights. They want all their money. They want the rights to their book, but then they don't understand that with self-publishing, you have to do all of the work to get your book out versus traditional publish where, yeah, you're going to sign off a portion of your book, but they're getting it into bookstores. They're marketing it. They are setting you up for interviews. They're doing everything for you. Now, and I'm sure that's just in a nutshell. That's not all what they do, but in a nutshell. Now, if that is something like you just want to write and let someone else take care of it for you, then research traditionally published. If you can say, you know what, I can market, I can write the book, I can do everything, then self-publish. I would never tell you to do one over the other. What I will tell anyone is to research what best fits for you. You know yourself. Starting this business, learning marketing, learning branding was huge. Like I had to learn all of that before I even started my business. And learning how social media can make or break you. And that is, people don't realize that is so pivotal to getting your work out.
Yeah. You got to cater to that audience.
And people always say, oh, I don't use, and this is me as a person. You are a small business, social media, that's how people hear you. How do you not utilize all forms of social media and you are a small business? Because if you are a self-published author, you are a small business. Might be an employee of one of yourself.
Exactly.
But you are your small business. You have to pay to get your books printed. Yeah. You have to market. If you're going to book expos, hopefully the world opens up, we can get back to book expos. Who's paying for those table fees? Like, you are your own business. How are you not using social media to the best that they can offer? It puzzles.
No idea.
I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. So.
Good luck to them. Maybe they knocking on doors like, how they did the census.
Maybe. But I always say I'm a person that has 2 pages. I know I actually probably have like 8 pages because I have my personal pages and then I have my business pages. If you go on my personal page, I'm all fun and laughing and posting kids and funny memes and videos, like all over the place. And then you go on my business page and it's like, wait, who's running the business page? No, because that's business.
That's right.
That's the business page. You never see the 2 mingle. So, you don't have to have the 2 just merging together and your stuff is like, well, I don't know what to do. And I was trying to post the book cover, but then this video of somebody fighting came on. I'm like, no.
Oh no, we don't want that.
Two different pages. So
Please.
I have personal business and personal for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yes, you're doing it right.
Neither should meet at the family reunion.
Oh my God. They don't want to meet at mine either.
They don't want to meet. So it's crazy. But yeah, so back to your book. So yeah, self-publishing was the key for you. I'm hoping that it is working out for you, but it must have, because you have a second book, right? So it's worked for you. Tell us a little bit about your second book.
So the second book was pretty much, so let me back something up. Okay. So with Childhood on Fire, I was so winded from writing that book that at the end, I really didn't expound on how I got out of the things that I were involved in. And so a lot of my readers was like, you just gonna leave us like that? Cliffhanger. So I was like, yeah, that just didn't go well. So I came out with a self-guided journal. So what I found, and for me, and it may not work for everybody, I've used every technique you can think of. Okay. But journaling works for me. The reason being, I was not a big fan of sitting down talking to someone about what my life was at that time, because I was angry. And talking about it would bring those emotions back up. And before you know it, I was ready to fight. So I was like, maybe I just need to be by myself. So I started to journal. And as I was journaling, I was looking at things and I was like, well, why did I do that? That was a little like off the wall. So the reflection started to turn into the introspection. And then I started to look down the road, and that turned into the projection. And I was like, I'm wondering something here. So I just went ahead and did, I gave 8, what I would say, proven strategies on how to reflect. And because everybody doesn't know, they don't know how to journal when you're trying to heal. You know, you can go in and start just, logging down your entries. But if you don't ask yourself those questions, those pertinent questions that are going to hit you where you really need to be hit, so you can kind of like dust off those rusty locks around your brain so you can start thinking a little bit. That's what I did. I put some really challenging questions in that book for people to think about, and then gave them some nice creative space for them to go ahead and just journal their thoughts.
Nice.
This is the second one. Giving up is not in your DNA, and DNA stands for Determined to Navigate Adversity.
Very nice.
Yep, and it's a journal, and it's a lot of space. I did less talking, but again, I just gave a quick, life experience, and the questions came, and some people gave me some good feedback, so we'll see.
Okay, I like it. So we got a couple of questions and some responses in the comment section.
Okay.
Chanel Narcissus, she's a good friend of mine in Legacies. She said, yes, Team Gardeners. She is also, I've gone to her house numerous times, and she is definitely outside gardening, making sure her yard looks beautiful.
I love it.
It's definitely it. Legacy posted a couple of comments, being more appreciative of life. I asked the question, who journals and does it work for you? And Jamise commented and says, I journal, and yes, it works for me too. Thank you, Jamise, for tuning in tonight.
Love you, Jamise.
I met her, oh my gosh, a year ago at the Baltimore Book Expo that was downtown last year. And we have been following each other all over social media. I actually have her books read them, cried through them.
Yes.
Actually sent her a text and was like, I'm just on chapter 1 and I think I snotted through like 6 tissues.
Yeah.
Wasn't prepared for that story at all. I always joke with my authors, like, if your story is a shocker, be it, in whatever genre it is, please send me a disclaimer so I can be prepared. Wasn't prepared for that, but I read it because I had to figure out how this was going, how this was going to come to an end. So we told her thank you and wink, but not really a wink because I'm very serious. We're going to have Jamise on one of these episodes of the Sip and Chat for her.
She has a powerful story. When I never met her, but I met her through social media. And when I read her story, what I couldn't understand was her smile. I just was so bewildered. Like, how is this sister still smiling the way she is? And it's like God's hand is all over her. And it's not a fake smile. Like, you can tell that she feels good about herself. So I'm like, yeah, God definitely, that's the thumbprint of God having his hand on her. But yeah, shout out to you, Jamise. Love you much. I know they're going to probably kill me because I have this authors group that I'm not a part of like I used to be. And I'm so sorry because I'm so busy doing like everything. But I'm going to take time out to get with my fellow ink slingers. That's what I call them. They're ink slingers.
Absolutely. And hey, again, be bold and be heard. So when they are ready to get their stories told, we will always be here for them. Especially you, Jamise, because I definitely want you on. I think I'm going to have to cyber stalk you for a little bit, but it's okay. But all in fun, though. But serious, but all in fun at the same time.
Jamise, come on, get on here. She should have been on here tonight.
Yeah, we're going to get her on here. Yes. I think I'm going to see, I already have ideas in my head. I want to do a segment of all of my powerful ladies and all of their triumphs and everything. And how did they get from A to B and getting to Z? What is their end of their train? What do they see? See, in the middle of an episode, already came up with an idea. That's how it.
You want me to write that down?
Please, and then text it to me. That's how fast it comes to me.
So wait a minute. So the A to the Z to the train to the legacy and what we're going to leave behind. Got it.
Yes. That's how it flows on an episode of the Sip and Chat.
That's Team Cancer. Are you surprised? It just comes to us like that.
Team Cancer.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
It's here. We here.
We're here. I love it. It's great. So, the next author that's coming on, down the road, I already have my lineup ready to go. But the next one that wants to write that self-memoir, what's some of your advice to them?
So, the first thing I would say is be careful.
Okay.
Be careful because sometimes, again, when you go down that memory lane, it's real easy to get caught up in a lot of those emotions. And once those emotions get triggered, again, you could easily fall back into those vices. So, be careful, be ready, make sure you sit down. And if it's, you got a gritty life story, you've been through a lot of traumas, make sure you deal with those traumas accordingly before you start to write it, because you're going to get faced with a lot of, you're going to be judged in a court of public opinion. You're going to get a lot of feedback. Some of that feedback may not be constructive criticism. It may come whereas though it may feel hypocritical. It may feel like somebody is being judgmental. So just be careful. That's my first thing. Second, do it for the right reasons. Don't write to hurt. Always write to heal. We should never use our pens as swords. We should always bring something to the table as well when we're telling our story. So don't just tell your story. also be passionate about giving a little bit back to the community, to those people who are still there. Pave the way. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. That is inspiring. So hopefully our listeners tonight is taking something away. Hopefully everyone is sharing this broadcast, because you never know who on their page could be needing some of that inspiration and a little bit of understanding into their life journey. So make sure that everyone is sharing the pages. Again, it's on YouTube and Facebook Live. So everyone has multiple ways to be able to watch Miss Talisha Hunter tonight. So we've talked about, your sons, you're going to be a grandma soon, in the nursing industry. 2 books under your belt. Wait a minute, let me go back. Are you planning on writing any more stories?
You know it.
I love it. I love it. Yes. So, of course, some more stories under your belt. Fast forward, your grandson is gonna be here. He's gonna be all smelling like baby powder.
Yes, I cannot wait. Oh my God.
Yes. But then he's gonna get older, and then he's gonna have kids, and time is going to go by. Yep. And you will sit back in your rocking chair and you're looking out over, your family, and you'll say to yourself, Talisha, what did I want my legacy to be before I leave this planet? Answer that question for me.
Well, family. Like, I said initially, I pride myself on keeping a tight-knit family and I don't have I have a large family, but, of course, that has tightened a lot after the publication of my book. But my immediate family, I want them to be, they don't have to be scholars. They don't have to take the road that I took. But I do want them to be decent citizens. I want them to give back to their community. That's important to me. I don't want them to be out here disappointing me, because my vision for them still exists. Although they have their own lives, I still have a vision for them that I had for them when they were babies. What I would like is for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to break the generational cycles and curses that we have been through. And not just me and my family, but at least if it can start there, that's a push. And it's one less statistics that, for the Black community and the Black experience. Do the right thing, build wealth, build your legacy. Hi, Simone. Thank you. So, just again, you have to start. My philosophy and core values are, it starts at home. You can't go out here and be great and then just forget about, your loved ones. I have a responsibility to my family. I brought them in this world. Can't give up on them now.
I love it. That is amazing. I love asking that question because I love to hear everyone's response. And we've been doing these episodes since September. And I promise you, everyone, their answers are different, but everyone starts with family. And I love that. Breaking generational curses, leaving something behind for them that they can be proud of. And
giving them a head start, Menina. You have to have a head start. The way that I muddled through so many things just to get where I am, and I'm still nowhere in life, but I had to work so hard to get here. If I can give my grandchildren and great-grandchildren that head start, and they don't have to go through any of the foolishness that I went through, any of those I want them to go through some form of hardships, but not the ones that I've been through.
I I agree. That was amazing. Oh my gracious. Thank you for all of my listeners that were here tonight. Talisha, you are an amazing guest. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just hang out with us a little bit. I have some news to share with all of our listeners. Just give us a second. I hope everyone listening just listen to the powerful statement that Talisha Hunter made tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sip and Chat. To our new listeners, if this is your first time but not last, watching an episode of the Sip and Chat. I am the owner of Legacy BookBar. Legacy BookBar is a Black-owned online bookstore that caters to, but not exclusive to, Black self-published authors in all genres. I am an avid reader way before I became a bookstore owner. And I know for me, it bothered me at a very young age, probably between 14 and 15, that our books were shelved in the back of a bookstore. We weren't with, back then I was reading a lot of romance novels and I love certain authors. And we were in the back of the store, not alphabetized with the other romance authors. That bothered me to my core. So then as I got older and I decided that I'm going to start my own business, and then it decided I was going to do the bookstore, I said, no more. We are no longer going to be in the back of the bookstore. We are going to shine bright throughout the entire store, because I'm going to create that light for them to have their books in a bookstore. So for authors like Talisha, Michelle Warren, A.A. Lewis, Amanda Chambers, Nikki Charis, and so many others of that are signed to Legacy, this is why we're here, is for them. They are some amazing and some very talented authors, and there's no reason why they're not in big and mainstream bookstores. But that is okay. Their loss is Legacy's gain and the world's gain, because you guys are going to get these amazing stories and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I got them at Legacy BookBar. That book was so amazing. Let me see what they have next. So I thank you for all that have showed their support, who will then further go and show their support and go and purchase some new books. So if you like romance, erotica, fantasy, self-help memoirs, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, children's books, if you like them all, we have them. Please note that 99.9% of the authors with Legacy BookBar are Black. More than 75% of the authors are self-published, and Legacy BookBar is affiliated with 3 female Black-owned publishing companies. We have Mocha Memoirs Press, we have Divine Legacy Publishing, and we have Kumba Publishing. Now, I mentioned those 3 publishing companies because April the 3rd, Legacy BookBar, in conjunction with Divine Legacy, Mocha Memoirs, and Kumba Press, will be hosting our first ever webinar directly through the Legacy BookBar website. If you are an aspiring author or an established author and you're trying to figure out where your publishing path is, will it stay with self-publishing? Will it go to traditional publishing? Do you want to start your own solo publishing company? What do you want to do with your next book or your first book? Coming to this webinar and listening to the 3 ladies, the owners, also authors themselves, listen to what they have to say. They were on our book summit that we had back in November. And we received so much feedback because there were authors that were listening that had never heard from that side of the table. So they were getting information that they had never heard before. So I said, you know what? Let's create an event and let's have the authors ask the questions that they didn't have the courage to ask, they never knew to ask, or they didn't trust the answer that they had received previously. So this is going to, if you fit somewhere in that bucket, this webinar is going to be for you. We have some amazing swag gifts that are going to be presented by the owners of these publishing companies. We can get the first 500 words of your novel edited. You can get $100 towards a custom book cover. You can get free editing up to 50,000 words of a novel with the purchase of self-publishing coaching. You aren't going to get these type of deals anywhere else but here at Legacy Book Bar. The three ladies plus myself, just like Talisha, are a firm believer in giving back. Without input from these three ladies, it would have taken a long time for me to get to where I am. And just like I received that information, I want to make sure that everyone else has an opportunity to get this information. So if you know somebody, you yourself, go to www.legacybookbar.com and RSVP today. April 3rd is the event. Oh gosh, that was a lot. But I got more because Legacy does not sleep because it's so much information to tell you. We're everywhere, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get some of these amazing stories by some of these beautiful and talented authors. So if you're in the DMV, I'll be at White Marsh Mall tomorrow in the same spot in front of Bath and Body Works. So you're more than welcome to come to the pop-up event. Come look at the stand. Come purchase a couple of books for yourself, your husband, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor, a co-worker, anything. I'll be there tomorrow from 11 till about 6:30 tomorrow. Come down and then show support. If you have been looking to do something different and you want to be a part of a book club because it sounds fun, well, guess what? It is fun, especially when you do the book clubs with Legacy Book Bar, because we actually have the authors on the call. So you RSVP to the website, you come on the call, and all of the burning questions that you have for the author, you can actually ask them directly to them. So this month we have Nikki Cheris, who is an author of Divine, a self-published author that published under Divine Legacy Publishing. We have her book, Twisted Love. So we got a little romance, a little suspense, and Nikki will be on the call. So the who, the why, the oh my gosh, what did you do? Is there another book coming? All of those questions you'll be able to ask Nikki on the call. Our virtual book club will be held next Saturday from 12 to 3 directly on the website. So if you're listening and you are Nikki yourself or friend of Nikki, please note that you are more than welcome to join the call. Our calls are open to all family and friends. So definitely show your support and hop on the call. We got a couple of books we want to share with you. We have Two Peas by Jamal Brown. We have The Exploration of Her. We have The Other Side of Forgiveness. And that is by Danita Lynn. And then Exploration of Her is by Michelle Warren. All of the books featured tonight is definitely on our website. And if you purchase today, you can use the shop code POP-UP and get 10% off tonight. Then, of course, we have one of our latest books, The Last Letter by A.A. Lewis. As you know, A.A. Lewis has the 716 Urban Fiction series. And we had one of our authors, Denise, who has a self-help memoir book on our site. She actually purchased The Last Letter and said, oh my gosh, that book was amazing. So I love how our authors support one another. This is how we do, because this is how we use social media for good. Denise bought A.A. Lewis' book. So now A.A. Lewis can then purchase Denise's book. And Denise will then share on social media with all her hundreds of friends. And then A.A. Lewis, who has a podcast and her Instagram followers, can then share on her page. So now everyone has an opportunity to support and be a part of each other's work. And now everybody knows what someone else is doing. This is how we keep as much as of our Black dollars into our Black community, especially when it comes to the arts. So just keep that in mind. For our tweens, we have Goddess Girls. For our tweens, we have After the Shot Drops. And then we have also The Usual Suspects for our tween boys. So we have books for all ages, all genres. Why not support? Because I always tell people, you have Legacy Book Bar, of course, is female and Black owned. The authors are Black. And then some of them came from Black-owned publishing companies. So with a purchase, you have literally supported 3 Black-owned businesses. Who can say that when they go to the store that they have supported 3 Black-owned businesses at one time? You're not going to always be able to do that. But here at Legacy BookBar, it's absolutely a fact that you can do that. Jocelyn, Jamise, Chanel, everyone, thank you so much for staying tuned with us, for tuning in. Talisha, thank you so much for being a gracious guest here with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'll be back here next week with another episode of the Sip and Chat. You guys were great, and I will see you back here next week. Good night, everybody. Stay safe and still wear your mask. You guys have a great night. Thank you.